My name is Jeremy Devins of Quietmind.yoga, and today's class is a yin practice to help you wind down and end the day and ease into sleep, to have better sleep and more restful sleep. So it's a yin class. We'll do everything low to the ground, no standing postures. This class is requested by my student V, who's an amazing photographer, and my student Jane from Scotland. She requested I add some singing bowls, so you'll hear that in the background. And if you have a request, please leave a comment below here, like, and subscribe to this channel to be updated whenever I update and offer a new class. So let's get right into our practice, and you'll want to be ready to go to sleep right after this. This is your perfect transition into bed. Let's go over to our yoga space. So you'll just want to have a yoga mat and ideally a wall space nearby. Let's start by laying down on the ground in a mini Shavasana here, right at the beginning of our practice. Crawl your shoulder blades down and together, and let your legs just naturally externally rotate. Toes turn out, your arms externally rotate, your palms turn up. And begin to take some slower, deeper breaths down to your lower belly. If it helps your mind settle in, you can count your breath, inhaling to a count of 3 to 6, and exhaling to a count of 3 to 6. Ideally, starting to slow down the breath helps us move into more of the parasympathetic nervous system, rest, digest, and relax mode. Maybe your breath starts to get a little slower, maybe 5 to 8 seconds on the inhale, 5 to 8 seconds on the exhale. If you feel good right here, just stay like this, keep breathing. But if you're coming in with a little more tension today, just tense up. Go with that tension. Tense up your arms, your legs, your feet, your chest, your hips, your core, your face. Everything tenses up. Hold that tension for a moment, contracting your whole body, and then just let it all dissipate and release. So we'll do that 2 more times. Again, if you're good, you can skip this part, but if you want to have a little more release of tension here, tense everything up, go with the tension. Feel that complete contraction as best you can of your whole body. Glutes, back, arms, legs, everything tense, and just let it all dissipate and release. Last time, tense everything up, hold that tension and hold it and contract more. Squeeze more, activate more, and then let it all release. Arms, legs, surrendering to gravity. Imagine your body is getting heavier and heavier with the pull of gravity. Now, while we're sleeping, we're often in this sort of position like we're at right now, just laying on the back, or maybe you're on your side. But we're going to do a couple movements here that can kind of balance out what's happening when we're sleeping. So let's bend the knees, bring the feet to the floor, and bring your right foot under your left leg to your left hand. Let your right knee just lower down to the floor. You could even, just a little bit, contract your right glutes. This is going to help lengthen your right hip flexors. If you're like most people, you might have been sitting a lot today. And this is I can feel it. I can feel it already. So it's going to be harder for me to talk as we go. So this hip flexor area is like our fight or flight muscle. So under stress, it tenses up so that we can run or fight if we need to. So it's very common. This area is tense. It goes from your spine to your femur. It's kind of like an A or a V shape from the spine to the upper thigh bone. And that's the psoas muscle, but there's also some other muscles considered hip flexors, like this quadricep area, you might feel it. So somewhere in this area here in the front of the hip, lengthening, because when you're sleeping, it's very likely that this is going to be contracted more on top of whatever stress you had today. So letting that lengthen out here. If you happen to have any knee pain or knee issues, just let go of your foot, but keep that same kind of shape, but now you're not using any force at all. But if you're okay in your knee, it's okay if you have a little bit of this leverage of your hand holding on the foot. And again, you can add that little bit of contraction of your right glutes. And when the back of the leg contracts, the front of the leg can open more. Now we'll slowly transition from here. Same thing on the other side. Left foot under the right leg to the right hand. And your left knee just lowers down towards the ground. Well, sometimes I teach this with bringing the other knee into the body, but I don't want to do that here before bed because that's going to contract that other hip flexor more. So let's just keep that as it is. And again, if you want to contract your left glutes here, you can add that. And even sometimes, if you use your fingers, you can palpate around here, just poking around the front of the left hip. You might find some spots where if you just put a little pressure, it'll start to release more tension there. But if it's painful, do less. It might be a little uncomfortable. That's part of yoga, but we don't want pain. That's too much discomfort. That's going to probably hurt us. So we want to just find a little bit. There's definitely some stretch happening, some elongation of the muscles. Those of you who know me know it's very important, I think, to not just stretch, but also strengthen our muscles. And I teach that in my Hatha and Vinyasa classes. But when we do Yin, it's all passive. Right? As long as we do a little bit of both, we'll be okay. But if we just do one or the other, we might get some major imbalances. So maybe tomorrow, if you're feeling like a little loose or a little weak, maybe do more of a Hatha or Vinyasa class to give you a little more strength and stability to balance out this Yin work. Now we'll slowly release here on this side, feeling the shesha, the residue of the pose move through your leg, releasing tension from the hips. Now we'll bring the soles of the feet together, the knees apart, into supine bound angle. Now here, if you happen to have some blocks or a book nearby, or some books nearby, you might put those under your thighs so it's a little less intense. If you're like me, very open in the adductors, this is no problem. But if you notice your knees are up kind of high and it feels like it's pulling on your back, get some support there for the legs. Otherwise, we'll hold and breathe here. Then you can just have your arms rest where it's comfortable. Or one hand on your belly, one hand on your heart, noticing your breath. Each pose is like a meditation, increasing awareness throughout the body. Slowing the breath down. Sinking down into the support of gravity. Then we'll slowly bring the knees back together and cross the right ankle over the left thigh. This is a supine pigeon pose. You might stay right there and just use your right hand to press your right thigh away. You can flex your toes, your right foot. It's the dorsiflexion, where you point your toes back towards your knee. This can take a little bit of the stress out of the knee if there is any. Next, you could add on here, if you want, to hold behind your left thigh or your shin. Just make sure your shoulders and neck can stay relaxed. If you had to lift your head any amount to do that, that's too far. Now you're adding too much stress to this. We want to be able to relax the neck, and that might mean holding behind the thigh instead, or just pressing into the right thigh. So stay where you can easily hold and breathe. Imagine you can breathe right into your right outer hip. Maybe your breath a little more easily gets down to 6, 7, or 8 seconds on the inhale, 6 to 8 seconds on the exhale. If you haven't already been closing your eyes, you can close your eyes. Now slowly just release this side of pigeon and straighten the legs out for a moment. So I've had the knees bent for a while. And then we'll go to the other side, left ankle over right thigh. Now this side's going to be different. Almost always the hips are a little different. So you can, again, do the first version, pressing your thigh away. Second version, hold behind the right thigh. Third version, hold behind the right shin. Just make sure your shoulders and neck can relax and have very little, if any, effort. As you can see through my window, I'm recording this in the daytime. So hopefully I'll be able to make it through the rest of the day. I might need a nap after this. A couple slow, deep breaths here. So we're not trying to go into our deepest stretches ever. We're just sort of working out the kinks so we can wake up feeling really good with very little, if any, tension in the body and have very good sleep. And now we'll slowly let the legs go. Again, just straightening the legs out. Always moving slow and gentle with the yin classes, no rush. So you may have noticed we opened the front of the hips, the inner and the outer hips. So now let's do some work with the back of the legs and the hamstrings. So here is where you're just going to scoot over to your side or come up to sitting, however you want to do that, and have your legs straight out in front of you. And we'll bring the left foot to the right thigh for Janu Shavasana, or head to knee pose. Find a little length up through the spine. Now, first version, you might have your knee bent a lot and just hinge at your right hip. Next, you might start to straighten your right knee a little more and hinge more. You might even grab onto the leg. But again, we're not going for our deepest stretch or most active poses here. And that's okay if your back starts to round, folding over the leg. And if you happen to have a couple blocks nearby, we can use those here. If you don't have blocks, totally fine. No big deal, but if you have blocks, they're right nearby, no problem. You can put those stacking both vertically under the forehead. So we want to maintain that stretch in the back of the right leg, the lengthening of the hamstrings. But we could also lower the block down to the middle height, to the lowest height, or maybe just one block. Right? But we're not trying to push too far here, just listening to your body, easing into this. And that's a pressure point right there at the middle of the forehead that makes you very sleepy, as I'm feeling right now. So as you hold this pose, relax any extra tension in the shoulders. If this hurts your low back, just bend your knee a little more and focus on hinging at the waist rather than rounding the back. Now we'll all just slowly transition to the other side. The same thing, Janu Shirshasana, the right foot to the left thigh. Feel your sit bones connect to the ground. Get some length up through the heart. And fold forward at the waist. So lengthening the left hamstrings here is the main intention. If you need to bend your knee a little, that's okay. You want to keep your spine as long as you can, as far as you can. And then when you can't go any further, it's okay if you round your back. And maybe let your forehead land on the blocks if you have those. Again, if you don't have blocks, you're just hanging out here. And if you're wondering what blocks I like, I have a link in the description of the video. You don't have to spend a lot on blocks. They're all pretty similar, but these ones I really like. So there's always links to those in the episode descriptions if you want to check out things I like. And now we'll slowly start to sit back up. So we don't want to be in that rounded back too much before bed, but we will do something now to sort of balance it out. So let your legs both straight out in front of you. Lean back on your hands and lift your heart shoulder blades together and down, lifting the chin. This little spinal extension. Now we don't want to do this too much before bed because it can be kind of energizing. So it puts a little compression on the kidneys. But it's always nice to do a little bit of back bending throughout the day, especially if you're sitting a lot. And we'll let that go. Bend the knees, feet on the floor. And let your hips move a little bit left to right a couple times, like windshield wipers. And then let them land to your right. Left knee to right foot. And turn to your right, down to your hands or elbows. Or again, if you have a block to put under your forehead, do that. So here, we're aiming to have more rotation in the spine. It's always good to do all the movements of the spine, and we are in this practice. So rotation more than rounding. If anything, there's a little bit of extension in your spine. And you kind of hinge at the waist, coming into deer pose. So the emphasis here is on the QL, the quadratus lumborum, a very common area of tension, especially if you're sitting a lot. And then we can add a little bit of stretching for the lats, which are going to be kind of stagnant for a while as you sleep. So you walk your left arm out just until you feel some lengthening on the left side of your body. Lengthening that point from your middle spine to your left fingertips. And we'll slowly come out. Over to the other side, deer pose. You let your knees to your left. And get your right knee to your left foot. Turn your upper body to the left. Down to hands or elbows or a block. Just for a moment, setting up the deer pose. Feeling the lengthening of your right lower side of your back. If you notice that your shoulders have kind of elevated, hunched up, and retracted, moved together, let's do a little bit of moving the elbows apart as best you can. And again, you might even, if you have a block, put that up higher. Or you might even just come up to your hands and take some of the stress out of the shoulders. But if you're okay, have the elbows a little bit apart, shoulders are more neutral and relaxed. Just like before, we'll add the stretch for the lats. Latissimus dorsi, the right arm reaches out, lengthening the space between your middle spine and your right fingertips. And we'll slowly come out from there, back up to sitting, into Sukhasana, which could be a comfortable cross-legged posture. It could be sitting up on a block. If you have tight hips, you might have sitting up on a block and blocks under your knees. So wherever you're at, if you can sit on a block and let your knees out wide, you want a solid base here, a pretty wide base here for the legs. And now we'll move our focus up to the spine, find a little lift in the heart, and walk your left arm out to your left, right arm overhead into the side bend. This is the last movement of the spine that we haven't done yet. And again, something you're probably not going to be doing much while you're sleeping. So help you feel a little more spacious when you get into bed. And we'll go over to the other side, side bend. And back up to center to lift your shoulders up towards your ears and then down and back. Sort of a circular motion, moving the shoulders a couple times, both directions. Shoulders relaxed now. Move your neck in any movement that feels good. Jaw relaxed and even sort of yawning here as you move the neck can help release more tension in the neck. Any movements that feel good. Fake yawns are good at first. Eventually a real one might come. If you see someone yawning and you yawn as well, that's a good sign that you have a lot of empathy. So if you didn't just yawn, obviously you're heartless and cold. Of course not. We all have varying degrees of reacting to other people. So we'll come back to a neutral spine here and sitting in meditation for a moment. And again, bring awareness to your breath, maybe 6 to 8 seconds on the inhale, maybe even like 8 to 10 seconds on the exhale. And you can count it if that's helpful, or just feel it out. It can be helpful to think in 3 parts, inhaling in the belly, the ribs, and the chest, and exhaling from the chest, ribs, and belly. This uses up our full capacity of our lungs. So with each inhale, the belly expands first, then the ribs, then the chest. And with each exhale, it's the opposite. The chest, the ribs, and the belly deflate. If your mind is wandering, count the breath. Use the numbers to bring you back to the present moment. And if there's any straining of your breath, make it shorter. We want it to expand over time, but we don't want to strain at all. It should feel more subtle, more light as you go. That's the intention. Now from here, 2 options. You can stay in meditation if this is great. You can do legs up the wall with me if you want just a little bit more grounding and kind of winding down if you're not quite ready to be in a meditative state yet. Or if you just want to help drain your lymphatic system, this is a great thing to do. So have the legs up. You're within a foot or 2 of the wall, so you don't have to be right against it, but you can scoot a little closer. If you don't have a wall, you can use a couch or a bed. Just having your legs elevated. This is the pose I've come back to the most in my many years of teaching and practicing now, because it's so effective. Helps improve the circulation to the legs. If you have any restless leg syndrome or poor circulation issues, this is a good practice to do regularly. If you have any immune system or health issues, this is great for the lymphatic system. It helps essentially keep your immune system functioning at its best. And when you get to bed, you'll probably be horizontal the whole time. So this is a very mild inversion, letting you be upside down, which can have a very calming effect for the nervous system. And if you're still sitting, you can just ignore all things I'm saying here. But for all of us, less effort, more ease. All the weight of the day is being lifted away. Without even trying, your breath is relaxed, deep, nourishing. Your mind is quieter. Your body able to relax. Now, if you're still sitting, you can stay there. If you want to stay longer in legs up the wall, stay there. Otherwise, we're going to transition to close our practice and help you get right into bed. And as always, I like to close the practice back in Sukhasana, easy pose, just a comfortable seated posture, fully embodying these yin qualities of receptivity, rest, relaxation, ready to go into deeper sleep. We'll close our practice with the hands together at the heart, following the mind to the heart and to each other. Thank you for practicing tonight. Namaste. All right. Again, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave a comment below. If it helps you get to sleep, I'd love to know. And if you have any requests, leave those in a comment as well. Be sure to like and subscribe to be notified whenever I post new videos like this. All right. Have a good rest of your night.